Let's do this thing.
Right. Welcome to another episode of Office 365 Productivity Tips. The February Frenzy.
Actually, we probably could have called that Frozen February at the rate that all of us are going, because it's snowing like crazy here in Minneapolis. Just saw that Portland is due to get like 14 inches of snow. Like, that's an epic snowstorm for them.
Portland.
Seattle is like snowed in, so.
Yep. But anyway, well, let's jump into things. I know that we're going to try and get done at the top of the hour here. With that, just very quickly, my name is Christian Buckley, founder and CEO of CollabTalk. I provide research and fractional CMO services to tech companies. Do a lot within the Microsoft ecosystem, and I'm a Microsoft MVP and RD. And there's my info. And if you do like this, if you're watching the live stream or you're participating in the webinar, and like what you're seeing, go check out the 10 other recordings. We're trying to do this on a monthly basis, but you can find them out on the YouTube page. Please subscribe to that, because I've got to get up to 100 subscribers. I'm getting close, so that I can actually name it the CollabTalk YouTube page and not have this archaic collection of letters and numbers. Tom, over to you. Who are you, Tom?
I'm still kind of stuck on your whole fractional CEO title.
CMO.
Okay, that's still cool. I've never heard you use that one yet.
Go.
So I am a software engineer at Cambia Health Solutions, which is an insurance company in the Pacific Northwest. I also go by Duffbert in a lot of locations online. The one you see there is for Twitter. You can find me on Facebook and everything else. And I also, my primary blog that I run is oneminuteofficemagic.com, which is where you will find a lot of these tips, and it's kind of where they start from. So feel free to go visit that and see them on a regular basis.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's jump through the explanation of what we're doing and how we're doing this. And Tom, do you have the Facebook open as well, so you can monitor votes through that as well?
Yeah, let me do that.
That might be a good way. As I'm starting to go through that, if you can have that open as well, and I can kick off the polls, because we do let the audience participate. And while we don't have a lot of folks on this one, we still want to try and do this, and we'll discuss. We'll see what happens here.
Okay.
But how we run these events is that, so each of us takes turns. So we are going head to head, and that's hence the boxing theme here. But we're taking turns. We're going to go through 5 rounds, so we're going to share 10 different tips. There are no duplicates, meaning that in twice or 3 times, I think since we've been doing this in a year and a half, we have erroneously shared a tip that one of us or ourselves have we've shared in the past. We go back and correct that. We lose that round if that happens.
I've
done that twice.
Okay.
I thought you did it once, but anyway, whatever.
I don't think I did, but anyway.
Anyway, so there are no duplicates. So we want to make sure that, the point here is that we've done 10 events. We've shared 100 unique productivity tips that are out there. And that's important to us. But we have the audience voting after each round, because we don't know what the other person will present. Tom will present like a OneNote tip, and I'll do a PowerPoint tip. And then he'll do something for Teams, and I'll do something for Outlook. And so it's apples versus oranges. So when you vote, it's not about who you like more, because clearly everyone likes Tom more.
Yay.
But it's about which that you think of those two is the most relevant to you for that round.
And if it's equal in terms of which one's relevant to you, pick who you like most.
There you go. We say no hitting below. Why don't we keep this in? I should just cross this one out, because it happens. We trash talk.
Yeah, we trash talk, and you can't reach below my belt. And that is like the easiest place for me to hit. So, it's kind of not fair.
And then we select winners, and we've got stats there. In fact, I put this here up front, the current leaderboard here. Tom's ahead in all categories. This is what I mean about the audience, the favorites so far. So
I might actually be semi-good.
Based on what's being shared, it's clearly not because you're sharing the best tips. So,
And
yeah.
I also kind of usually stuff the ballot box by inviting half my company to this. So
That's
yeah,
all. It's all good. It's all good. So I mean, the point is that we're and all this stuff, and you saw it. We'll share it again. But Tom has his blog of 1 Minute Office Magic, and I blog over on Buckley Planet. It's everything that we show and share will be. We're going to share through social. It's out on YouTube. You'll find it on most of them through Tom's blog, and I'm going to add all of mine to my blog as well, so that you've got these resources and all the links that we discuss and mention. And the slides will be available as well for you to go and grab. But let's go ahead and get started. As always, since I'm kicking things off and the pilot of the Zoom recording here, I always get to go first and land something. This is one of my favorite apps. I have to say, so twice this week, 2 separate times used it and used the new feature. It's pretty awesome. Office Lens. Big fan of Office Lens. Tom, did you know that there's new features for Office Lens that just came out?
I did not, because I don't use it a lot.
What? Okay, yeah.
Well, okay. Let's be fair here. One of the things, and you even show it on your screen here, is, hey, I can take a picture of a receipt, pull it into whatever. I don't travel nearly as much as you do, my friend.
Yeah, and I use Expensify. I use other apps for that. I don't use it for that. But what I just used it. So my daughter, who's there in Minneapolis in grad school, I had to sign some paperwork for her to transfer the title of the vehicle that she's been driving for the last decade.
I remember that.
And so transfer everything for our State Farm insurance. And they sent me a PDF. And it was locked down. I have the full Adobe suite, and I couldn't go in and digitally sign it. I had to print it, sign it, scan it, send it back. And so I used Office Lens, and it was.
I have used it for that. Yes,
it's a breeze. And I've also started going there and with an OCRing business cards. Anyway, that's kind of the example that I'm going to show. So what's cool about this? So you can now go in and add text, highlight what's in your scan. If you're going to send it, save it as a PDF. Save it as an image. Save it to your phone. Send it as an email. Save it to your OneNote. You can add a watermark to documents and then save them or share them from there, which is awesome. If somebody says, "Oh, can I have a copy of that?" Well, no, actually, let me go in and snap a picture of it, put a watermark on it, and I'll email it to you.
Nice.
You can add a caption that stays intact with that image. And so this is what I actually went in and used it for. So I was at this event last week, grabbed a couple dozen, I was at the Silicon Slopes Tech Summit here in Salt Lake City, me and 21,000 of my closest friends there here in the area. And as I'm collecting some business cards, I would go in and I started adding notes. I didn't know that. So it's as simple as you snap the photo, you tap on the T icon, and then you go add the text. And there's some other capabilities that you can do. And it was announced a couple months back. It's now available. I've got iOS. I've got the Apple, what is it? It's the not Windows. It's the iPhone 10. Sorry, I see how I struggled there because I made a joke there. No word about support for Windows Phone, BlackBerry, Palm OS, or Kin.
And you laugh, but he still has a Kin, I think.
Yeah, I have both Kins, yeah, and they're working, but they're I bought it more for the museum than for that. But my daughter was actually at the time was a freshman in college, was the target audience for that product, and she loved that device. And then it kept breaking. I think she had 4 of them, and then they said we're not going to replace it anymore because it's going away. But anyway, so how this works. So you're able to go in, you snap that picture. What's cool about it, so you select the business card. You can see it puts a box around it. It sizes it in the space and identifies that. You snap the photo. It allows you to go in and kind of trim it and crop the image, whether it's a document or a business card or whatever note. So you can actually only keep an image of the aspect of the document that you're interested in. Then from there, you click on the T icon, you add. So here, I met at the Silicon Slopes Tech Summit 19 event. And here's a guy with a law firm out of California, was there visiting, change the text, create a watermark, whatever you want on that. And then I went and I placed that, as you can see, I went and placed that over in this white space on the card, left it really big, just so that there's a note on there. Because I don't know if for those that collect business cards, I usually will go and write on them right on the back, like where I met the person, why this is relevant, what I want to do the next action. And sometimes, when you're standing there writing on a card, using the back, your hand is support for that. Your handwriting is not that legible. Mine isn't. I found that. And so I just used this. And then below you can kind of see that there are different filters or modes, so you can style changes and make it clearer or visible. It's not, you're not adding like Instagram styles to these things. That's not the point, but just to clean up the image that you're capturing to make sure that it's legible. So that is my tip. My tip is the text annotations in Office Lens, the new feature in Lens.
That is pretty slick, and I like it on two different levels. I like it because I love how you can take something, especially like business cards, your example here, and actually make your notations live and keep it attached to that particular document, which is really great. But it's also a reminder to me that I need to go out there and start using Lens more often.
Yes.
Because I think there's a lot of things that I'm probably could do better by using Lens, but I just don't think about it because these use cases aren't ones that are repeated for me on a regular basis to where it finally sinks into the gray matter. So
really cool.
I've
got one of those printers that is a multifunction, and it has this scanner, the flatbed scanner. I never use it.
Yeah, I've got a little Doxy scanner that I use for those kind of things, and that's nice.
And if we've talked about this in the past, but when this was launched a couple of years back, I think it was right when TechEd went away and it became Ignite, the first one, the one in Chicago, and I started really using this app. I was sitting in a giant theater with like 1,000 other people, and there were like 5 big screens, and I was in the far left screen, and so it is this dramatic skewed angle, and I take these skewed pictures with the Office Lens, and it would adjust them. Obviously, it wasn't clean type, but it tried to normalize it to square it off, so that it was at least readable from my perspective. And I would share. That was fantastic to have that capability.
But and also to have the built-in OCR stuff in it.
Yes.
Like phenomenal for me. So cool.
Well, Tom, over to you.
Okay, so mine is going to be something that's not quite as flashy and techy, and probably one of those ones I should have figured out that it was there a long time ago, but I didn't. And that is starting Outlook in something other than Inbox. So as long as I have used email, which I'm old, I've always just like it opens in your inbox, and that's where you start your work. But I had seen something by Jason Womack, he said you don't have to start in email. You can start with your calendar. You can start with something like that. Like, that's cool. I didn't know that. So I went out there and looked, and sure enough, if you go out to your Outlook options, you go down to Advanced, one of the options that you'll see is Outlook Start and Exit. So when you look at the Start Outlook in this folder and click Browse, what you get at that point, if I can advance my screen here. Oops, there we go. Let's go back here. There we go. What you do when you click Browse is it gives you a list of all the different folders, your calendars, your contacts, your journal if you use it. I don't think I ever have. But pretty much everything that you've got out there, you can go ahead and say, I would like it to open there instead. So if you're in a situation where you think it's better, and I would argue that it probably is, but I don't do it, to start the day by looking at your calendar, figure out what you've got going on, where's your best use of your time or stuff like that, you can have Outlook actually accommodate that and go in and show you your calendar so you're actually paying attention to where the urgent matters are instead of immediately getting inundated with 100 unread emails that you've got to hit right out of the gate, and then you've lost momentum before you've ever got started. I did have somebody say something when I posted this originally, which was kind of cool. and that was, wouldn't it be nice if they would let you open multiple items when you started? So if you could open calendar and have an inbox open. That would take a little bit of work probably to get your different screens that way, but that would be kind of cool too if you could have two different things going at once. But I think the ability to go in and say, I don't want to focus on email immediately. I want to focus on something that's most important to me, like my calendars or things like that. I thought that was a really good tip, and I kind of liked it, and that's why I shared that one.
You know, I think all of this point, you and I have talked about this a number of times, that there's getting to be richer integrations between workloads, cross workloads. And because the reality is that we don't work in a single workload. We don't just work in Outlook all day. We move in between these different things. And so being able to, get to, each of these, these places and utilize these tools through different styles, different work methods. I don't know how to phrase that. I mean, it's really great that Microsoft is looking at these different experiences. For all people poke fun at the use of that word, overuse of that word of experiences. That's what we're talking about. We use things in different ways. So
oh yeah. I mean, there's so many things that when we're sharing internally in our company, they're like, oh, well, how should I use this? I'm like, I can't tell you how you should use it. I can make suggestions, but it's going to be, how do you work best? And that's going to be different for everybody.
Yep. Well, I have a thought here, since we have we've got a couple folks that are on this, and I don't think voting. We're not going to be able to do it and get a substantial number. I've got an idea, so I'm not going to post the polls. And plus, Jeff Roski just joined, and his vote doesn't count anyway. So we'll just discount that right off the bat. So I've got an idea. So we will do the polling later. I'm going to do it post it out through social for each one of them. But we'll go ahead. Oh, now we get the chat message. Jeff is complaining about that. Wait, he says he'll leave. No, you don't have to leave.
Don't leave, Jeff. I was happy that you were here, unlike other people.
Well, we know who just bought a vote there.
I'm just a suck up. That's all there is to it.
Wait. So we'll come back to that. So everyone. So Jeff and Robin, and then whoever's watching on the stream, Harjeet and a few others. We know it. We'll let people vote on each one of these, so that'll still happen. Don't worry.
We know the score will be 1 to something, at least.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on here.
Jeff, I'm breaking up the band again. Okay. All right.
So number 2 here is something that's kind of cool that, again, because I don't do this a lot, I keep forgetting about it. But this was something that one of my coworkers had shared, and I thought, this is really cool if this is the type of work you do with SharePoint, and that is being able to pin a SharePoint document library to your Windows quick access area. Obviously,
this is exactly what I'm talking. What you like? It's very similar to like your last one, and this is exactly the same kind of thing. It's like, I love these kinds of integrations.
Oh yeah, because you can get to it via a normal path, but this tip right here will allow you to get there instantly, which I think is just awesome.
Tips for the way that normal people work.
Exactly. So if you are a SharePoint user and a heavy SharePoint user, I'm sure you've used Windows File Explorer on numerous occasions where you can access your document library in SharePoint using the Windows File Explorer interface, which is great, and it's a lot easier, especially if you're using older versions of SharePoint, to use that methodology for getting things in and out of a library or moving things around. So Sarah reminded me of this quick access area and how you can pin them, and I thought I would share this, so I had it out there somewhere where I would remember. But if you're in a modern library experience, SharePoint Online, you can select the All Documents, and when you click the drop down for that, you'll see View and File Explorer. If you're using the classic view, or if you've got an older version of SharePoint, you'll see it up here in the ribbon bar under Library. and it will say open with Explorer. So either one of those will get you to where you need to go, regardless of what level of Microsoft SharePoint you're using. But ultimately what it does is it comes out and shows you this kind of an interface, which is where you can do a lot of things quickly. But if you right click in that area on quick access, you get this pin current folder to quick access. And I have probably looked for that so many times. It's like, I don't remember where that is. And I didn't have time to search for it. So it's like, hey, this is great. So you just do the pin current folder to access. And this is a document library called Shared Documents. And then you'll find that that shared document folder, that is a SharePoint site library now, is sitting there in your quick access. So if that's where you do a lot of your work, and you find this is the most convenient way for you to do your work, hey, go ahead and put it in quick access, and then you can go directly there just by opening Windows File Explorer. And you can bypass the whole browser, you can bypass all your navigation, you can bypass trying to navigate down to Windows File Explorer. It's right there for you.
So this is something that I've used extensively, and we've talked about. This is like right up there with pinning documents that you're working on. In fact, so I do this daily. I'm pinning and unpinning just to make sure that as I'm moving in between applications and opening and closing versions, that I'm able to jump to each of these things. And I have all of my working files in these, in these quick access areas. So, I was just reconfiguring, unpinning things from quick access last night for projects that are now closed, and moving others that I need, that I, just quicker access to, easier access to, into that. So yeah, I'm using this pretty heavily.
Yeah, this was, when we shared it internally, everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I'm like, this is one of those tips I thought was a little bit of a throwaway tip, but the throwaway tips a lot of times are the gems that really change the way people work. So.
And the other thing too is that this is, while we've not done it before, because we've talked about, I think we have talked about the quick access area, but and pinning, it all is like part of it. It's this incremental improvements that are part of that user experience, or closer to the way that people are working. I just love seeing this kind of stuff, because it shows that Microsoft is listening.
Yeah,
and
some
it's
of the stuff
consistent across experiences.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I talked about on the Office 365 Pulse webcast that I did yesterday, that'll be published today, actually. We talked about some of the incremental improvements that are coming to SharePoint Online in terms of sticky headers and stuff like that. It's like, none of these are earth-shattering, but the combination and the accumulation of those makes a huge difference.
Yep.
So
they add up.
Cool stuff.
Yep. Well, I'm going to jump into my second one. So this is one, I think you'll like this one, Tom, because it's something I've been setting up, playing with a lot and doing this. In fact, I found something else last night. But so this, if it'll move forward, there we go. So stuff with to-do. I was a Wunderlist user. I'm a list guy. So I've been using Microsoft To-Do. But I was thinking about this. So I have, like, I'm sitting here looking across the room. I have an Amazon Echo, or they'll get the larger device. I've got the small Echo devices, the hockey puck size.
The dots, yeah.
The dots, yes, thank you. I'm a new Apple Watch guy. Honestly, I'm not completely sold on it, because I love my other watches. I collect watches.
Okay.
And I have my phone with me, and so part of me is thinking, this would be so much more useful if I didn't have my phone with me all the time. But when I don't have my phone with me, usually it's intentional. And so I don't want my watch buzzing me about stuff. Anyway, I'm getting used to that. But I wanted to connect. I want to be able to go in through Siri or Alexa, be able to, and she heard that over there across the room. I want to be able to generate things and put things on my to-do list. And so you've got all the here, but it's not. So this is about connecting to your smart devices and your smart speakers. And there are a ton of things out there, but specifically around to-do and building to-do lists. And so whether it's through your Amazon or Google device or your to any Apple iOS system, is going into your iPhone settings for, and I'll use this example for Siri, connecting it to your Outlook or Exchange account, to your Office 365 account that's there, making sure that you're setting up by default your to-do, the Microsoft product to-do, to be your default list for those reminders. So that means that I can, while I'm driving and I'm using my hands-free and requesting things of Siri, I can extend my to-do list at home with my Echo. I can do the same thing, add to those lists, add to reminders, have reminders that I create in Outlook or in the to-do app be accessible, and reminders, to go off, on my watch. I mean, there's just so many cool things that you can do to link these various smart devices. It's all these IoT, the Internet of Things devices, to automate between them. And so I've shared some of the links here of the ones that are out there. Look, there's a ton of other cool stuff happening with To-Do, and Tom and I are going to be sharing, we've not gone through and built our list for our SharePoint Conference North America presentation that we're doing together, but I've got a couple To-Do things that I think will be contenders for that list because they're really cool.
Cool.
But anyway, so here, if you're using one of these smart devices today, here are links that you can use to go out and set up these automations. The other side of this, of course, is that you have Zapier and IFTTT, which is if this then that, which are ways to go in and create these little web-based applet services to connect various things. Because the things that I have, for example, around this is a different category entirely, and maybe I'm kind of wrecking a future tip we could be sharing. But for example, I have set up that any screen capture I get on my iPhone automatically saves into OneNote. So while I have it out in the iCloud, I don't have to move anything because through IFTTT, I don't know if this then that, through that service, it automatically pushes that over into my OneNote. So I've got them right there. Nice. Yeah, I mean, really cool stuff like that. So I recommend that. In fact, here's a snapshot. I was logged in last night, and so some of the different services that I have that are connected and turned on specifically around my smart devices. So there's literally thousands of different options, things that people have gone in and pre-built. You go in and do a search like, can I connect these two things, that I use every day somehow? And I always thought, wow, it'd be great if they somehow talk to each other. You need to go check out If This Then That, as well as Zapier, because there are likely pre-built, somebody built integrations to automate between them. Of course, you can do other stuff like use Flow to automate as well. But these things are pre-built. There's paid and free. I only use the free ones that are out there, and they're throttled. They may only work on push information on a daily or hourly basis, but just great productivity capabilities.
Yeah, I know I've got to, and I've had it as a pinned tab in my browser for a while to go back out to my IFTTT account and kind of update the, what's out there and things like that, because I realize it's been a while since I've really gone out and looked at some of my recipes, and a lot of my recipes out there were pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Or they'd been turned off.
Right.
And a couple things I had out there.
You do need to refresh. Yeah,
you do need to refresh. And like I had Flickr out there, and when Flickr decided they were going to change their terms of service and everything, I thought, don't want to keep Flickr.
Yeah. No.
Well, then I turned off Flickr, and all of a sudden it's like I had a number of recipes that were like, hey, your recipes aren't working anymore because your Flickr account's not connected. I'm like, I don't have a Flickr account anymore. So had to do some cleanup, and I know they've added a lot of items out there since I last was out there. So
it really is the modern tech burden have to go out and make sure that this stuff is refreshed on a regular basis.
Exactly.
So
good one. I like that one. That's good.
I think two great tips there. So again, we'll push out, let people vote on that, and we'll collect it here in the final version, the recording that we post out to YouTube. All right, round 3, back over to me. So here's one that you probably saw. I think is a great tip. Is the pre-built approval flow, Microsoft Flow in a SharePoint modern site. And this one popped out to me. So I've got the link and stuff here. So Chris McNulty did a blog post out on the Microsoft Tech Community. I realized I need to capitalize Microsoft there. Anyway, I'll fix that. But that as he points out, one of the things is we're going out and building these things. We're building more and more communication sites and pushing information out, consuming information via our SharePoint portals. Just having it open. You want people sharing data or making modifications and adding relevant content, but where you're trying to have some semblance of organization and quality control over that content, you might want to put in some kind of approval flow. And I believe, when my foggy memory now, I'm so old now, but the SharePoint 2010 book that I co-authored with Jennifer Mason, Brian Jackett, and Wes Preston, we had an approval flow in one of the chapters there. So that was, I think I actually wrote about that. But that going and setting that up back in SharePoint 2010, it was a little more involved in doing that, and because it wasn't meant to be at the time, really a content management system, and most content management was done outside of SharePoint with some integrations into SharePoint. But now using Microsoft Flow and what Chris outlines, and there's a great animated demo that walks you through the process, and I've captured some of the images there to show you how easy it is to go in and do that. So you have, and this is all animated, and you can see kind of where the little vibrating touch point is on the screen there. But you have like a list in the pages that are built, and somebody wants to go in and add some new news piece to that, to a site that you control. And so they go in, they create the configure and approval flow. You can set that up. You turn that on. So on those pages, to create that once it's in place. So somebody goes in, they create a new piece of content. They then go in and submit it. And there's a little submit content button that pops up. So I'm doing a kind of an abbreviated version of what you'll see in that animated demo. But you go in, you submit it. Chris, because he set it up, he owns that site. He controls that approval. He then gets those notifications. It'll tell you right up front, hey, you submitted it, but it needs approval. Oops, I jumped too quickly to that. I thought there was one more screen there. But then you have the ability to go in and see everything that you need to go and approve, and you can approve or reject those things. And then the new content gets added to that page, that site, and gets shared to that communication site. Very simple, but it is one of the things that I always tell clients is don't go and recreate the wheel if it exists already. And so Microsoft has gone and created, well, you've been able to, using Flow, go and create this, and even before using Flow, create your own approval workflow. But now you have something that is out of the box with modern lists and libraries, so that as people submit, that you can kind of throttle that incoming new content and enforce that quality on content being created. That's the tip.
I think this is really good too, because having lived in SharePoint 2010 world for way too long, when people would use the out-of-the-box approval workflows or the ones to collect feedback, quite honestly, I hate those. They're cumbersome.
They are painful. They are.
Yeah, it's not pretty. And if you want to customize them and you use SharePoint Designer to do that, it gets even uglier. But Flow is much more straightforward. I love the easy way to see, hey, here's the stuff that you have. Click approve, reject, boom, you're done. Really like this, and I love what they've done with the approval flow here. in the out-of-the-box version that people don't have to work to try to figure out. So,
there's a big push around, whether it's through advertising or a lot of these kinds of productivity capabilities, to have more of a native experience. And the idea is that for these common tasks, you don't want to have to go outside of the tool, the workload that you're using to get stuff done. It decreases productivity when you're having a context switch. So something like this, and being able to go in, you as the owner of that site, and be able to just create, to go in and have a drop down of the various flows that are available, and drop this in very quickly. It's just a no-brainer to go and use something like this.
Definitely good stuff there. So,
right, Tom, over to you.
This was something that I ran into the other day, and given that I have a love-hate relationship with Excel, not really surprising that I'm just now figuring this out, but I found that if you're in the insert area in an Excel spreadsheet, you've got this option called screenshot. And so this would be good for like documentation that you're maybe using Excel for documentation, which I'm not quite sure why you do that, but hey, I don't judge. What you can do is you can go out to your Excel spreadsheet, select a cell where you want this documentation or this screenshot to show up in, and go to Insert, Screenshot. And then what it does is it opens up a panel that shows you all the open windows that you have in Windows. So in this case, you do have to have it open. So if you have a Word doc you want to pull from, or if you have something in OneNote, you do have to have that window open somewhere with that particular page visible. But you select whatever one you want, go ahead and double click, and then it actually puts that screenshot image into your spreadsheet at the cell, and obviously it goes longer than that, but it puts it at that cell. And then what's cool is it also gives you the picture tools to format the image. And this really gives you a lot of different things you can do for color corrections, or you can tilt it or rotate it or put shadows on it, or picture layouts, border effects, alt text, you name it. You have a lot of options in here without having to go somewhere else to get an image, do all your screen prep for it, then come back in here and paste it. Again, as Christian has alluded to on a number of tips, it's like you can do everything from within the context of where you're at. And I think this screenshot tip, while in my world, obviously not something that I'm going to be using on a daily basis, but if Excel is kind of your end-all be-all tool for creating things or wanting to put little images out there or stuff like that, this is a really great way to get that easy, go grab a screenshot, bring it in, poof, it's there, and I didn't have to involve any second or third-party tools to get there. So this was a cute little tip that I had never seen before, and I thought was nice to have out there.
I've come across that. I've used that before. So I used to, going back long history with Excel and using it for a couple past companies and automating it to pull images out based on data as the tables were uploaded and that kind of stuff. So, but to be able to go and to modify this and drop images in, look, I'm a big fan. More images, less text, people. Come on.
Exactly. And I'd be curious too. I haven't checked it. It just occurred to me. I'm wondering if there's something similar to that for like PowerPoint. That's something I could definitely see using.
I would take a note of that, and Tom, maybe add it to your list of vNext for the next episode. So
that would definitely
awesome. All right. Well, we're for this round. So the using the screenshot feature in Excel versus the flow inside of the approval flow within SharePoint Modern Sites. If you want to jump to round 4 and we'll get started.
Here we go with round 4. So here is finding out what distribution list you own or belong to, which I find this is like critical to me when I'm trying to go out and figure out, where do I go update stuff, things like that. And what I found is that if you go to Outlook Online, and this only works in the online world, what you can do is go to Outlook Online, go to the gear icon up in the upper right corner for settings, and then when you click that, yeah, that's the one I wanted. When you click that, what you'll find is it drops down, you have your different app settings down here, select the mail one, and then when you have your mail options over here on the left side, under general, you'll see distribution groups. You select that, and then you kind of wait a few seconds / longer because it has to scan all the distribution lists that you have in your company or your major address book that you have. But what it comes out with is a list of all the groups you belong to, and more importantly to me, all the groups I actually own, because the groups that I own are the ones that I often have to go out and update. And so this is a great way, because from here, what I can do is click on the group and it will actually open up, give me the chance to see the membership, give me the chance to edit the membership, save it from here. And it's really, really easy to work from this screen without having to do a lot of other weird URLs that take me to another little level of Outlook in a certain other format. This is just built in, and I really like it.
What's hard for me though, Tom, is the fact that it blurs out everything out. You're not able to see. It's not very useful.
Sometimes I just really don't care, Christian. I don't want to see half this stuff.
Maybe if you send me all of that distribution list info, and I could do some test marketing campaigns to that, then I'd feel okay about this.
Yeah, that's why it's so funny, because I have so many people go, how do you blur that stuff? I'm like, it's the best feature in Snagit. What can I say?
Yep.
One thing that I will mention about this, and it's something that came up between the time of when I posted this and when this new thing happened, is sometime this week, I believe it was, I went out to Outlook Online, and it said, hey, see the new Outlook. And of course, being a techie, I'm like, ooh, squirrel, let's look at that. And I clicked on it. It was showing the new Outlook, which didn't look a lot different from the old Outlook. But what I noticed is when you went to the options area, the option list was trimmed down a lot. And I couldn't find where I could get to this feature anymore. And I'm thinking that, yeah, they're doing development for the web first, and mobile first and stuff like that. I get that. I'm hoping that they're still working on bringing the rest of the types of options you can control down to the new version of Outlook, whatever that happens to be. Because right now, I would spend a lot of time going back to the old Outlook, this one, just to get to the things that I needed to get to. So I'm curious to see how that's going to shake out long term. So just something to keep in mind if you've gone to the new version of Outlook that was just released here, like within the last week or so, and you don't see this, don't feel bad. I couldn't find it either.
All right. So my round 4 items. There we go.
Okay.
So here is something that, again, I love some of the capability. When Microsoft announced, introduced Sway, and people were confused, like, the Sway take away from PowerPoint? Like, no, look, they're different things. There's overlap, but they're used the different use cases, different scenarios. But it was just a natural, in my mind, for now forms to make their way into PowerPoint presentations. And why do I care about having a form, adding a poll or a quiz to a PowerPoint? Well, it's pretty incredible that I can go and share out a basically an interactive object, a form or a quiz in a SlideShare presentation, and post it out on slideshare.net or post it out on OneDrive or wherever you have it, your website, and then go back into the forms at Microsoft.com site and read the data as it comes in. It's pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
That you can do that in a PowerPoint now. So you can make what used to be a static, stale, old piece of content a dynamic, relevant thing by adding these various tools. So it's integrated PowerPoint for Office 365. It's awesome. So there's a blog post out on the tech community. This is one of those things where sometimes Microsoft makes announcements through the Microsoft 365 blog. Sometimes usually they're now trickling out through the Microsoft tech community. So if you're not signed up yet for the tech community, you need to be on there because so much comes through that site. So just to kind of share there, so you have that when you create your PowerPoint presentation. If it'll forward, there we go. So just go in PowerPoint. Of course, you can see the forms. You insert, click the forms icon, and again, it's either a poll or a quiz. It's right now, I have to say, and I've actually posted the questions. I didn't see the answer out there. It's for Windows 32, which is a lot of people. It's not me though. I'm a Windows 64 user, and it's not yet available. So I'm sure maybe that update's out there, but I actually reached out to the product team, and if they respond back with an answer, or maybe it's already there since they mentioned this weeks ago, and I'll update that within the slide and in the video. But what I found wasn't there yet. But how this works, I mean, going in there, you see your response again just through the forms.office.com. As you're going in and building that, where's my build? Come on. There we go. So create forms, the new form, and you'll see the past forms, so you can reinsert forms that you've used, polls that you've used before. And they are using this example from the education sector, which is fantastic. So you've got the forms, and kind of the double hitter here is that you also have then the quizzes. And what's cool about this, if you're teaching something, if you're doing a session and want to like have fun, and like I'm doing SharePoint Saturday this weekend, I'm thinking, how can I incorporate this in to my presentation, have people go in and be taking a quiz there. And what's cool about this is that as they answer, you can actually, with the quiz capability, give them the right answers immediately and even kind of explain, hey, this is why you're right. It also has the ability to go in there and build like equations so people can do the math. But this is one of those things that I would argue that, yeah, we teach our kids, but you'll never use it again in real life, ever. I've been saying that since I was in high school, and it's in my life largely been true, but as a marketing guy. But anyway, you have the capability to go in and do that. Some really cool stuff. I just love that. I'm excited about that feature.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, I do have to pay attention to the fact that we in our company are on the semi-annual release cycle. So I may not have seen that one, but we're officially rolling out forms 2 weeks from now, 1 week from now, somewhere around there.
You should have it at that point. If you've got form support, it should all be there, because I think you're just getting the dynamic. If you're on the Office 2016, then once you have form supported, then you'll have it.
Yeah, so that'll be really good. And I know a lot of people have been like really excited about, oh gosh, I get to use surveys and forms and stuff. This is going to be great. And
it is great.
I think adding that into a PowerPoint presentation will be a nice touch. So I'll probably be sharing that tip and going with it if I make sure that we've got access to it.
I was a Typeform user, and I hated having to go out, and it was a little bit different in a way. It was just had a little bit more complexity to what I wanted to go and do. And of course, you get some more complex surveys and things out there. It's not like doing a Qualtrics survey, but you get quickly into the realm where you need to pay for it to get other things. And I was excited to see that Forms kind of caught up to that and has a really nice look and feel to it and great functionality like this. And deeper integration into the Office suite is just a huge win.
And so much nicer to the SharePoint 2010 survey templates.
Right.
Made me die.
Yes.
Painfully.
All right. So final round here. So I'll kick things off. And so this is something that, and I've actually been talking about, it's been around there for a while, but I just found that people don't realize that this is available out there. So this one is a Microsoft Teams tip, connecting your cloud storage to Teams. And so we're all aware that you can go in and add a tab, and there's all these different options of different services and tools that you can do, or even if there's not a formal integration, you can add a tab and that pink icon there, the website, you can just have a link to that outside service through that website. And you have to be able to log into that service. But the beauty of Teams, one of my favorite things about it is that when you're working on a project, working on a problem, working on a ticket, however you're utilizing Teams and that structure, is that you have the ability to go and create tabs and have quick links to every applicable, relevant resource, site, tool, service, whatever it is, available to the team working on, maybe there's 5 of you that are working to close out a customer ticket. Well, you can have a tab that links to their website, have a tab that links to the relevant SharePoint list or library, whatever you have there. It's like, so that's the beauty of the tabs. There are actually a couple different ways that you can go and have the links to these cloud services. It's not just the tab. So you can actually do it through the files. So just to demonstrate here, so you can go in and I use it just as an example of SharePoint, but you go into the folders, to the files. So when you go into Teams and you've got, by default, you've got the conversation, you've got the files, you got the Wiki tab, which I think you're going to be able to make that go away soon here. I don't know where that is. I've not been following along with that. But you have the ability to go in there. As you can see right there at the top, you see that add cloud storage, but you can go in there, add a folder, a Word document, you can add content to that. You can also add that additional cloud storage item. So as you go in there and click on that, and that's the wrong one there, it was, here we go. So anyway, so adding a tab, I'm going backwards here, but so you can add a tab, so it could be a SharePoint site or a specific list or library, whatever that is. But just similar to that cloud storage, you can add Google Drive or iCloud or Dropbox or Box or whatever that is as a tab, of course. That's the easier one. But in there you're naming your tab, and there it's showing up as a tab. Great. And that was a SharePoint as an example of cloud storage. Now, just to clarify, when you create a Microsoft team, it generates a SharePoint team site, and by default, everything that you upload to the default storage there in files in that team within the channel that you're working will go into SharePoint. What I'm talking about is that, okay, that creates that. Well, let's say that the project you're working on actually needs to reference documentation in 3 other existing SharePoint sites, and you're working between various SharePoint sites. You can go and add those 3 other SharePoint sites as tabs, or you can add them into the files so it just becomes like a folder, each of those sites, so that, again, you're think about the user experience of the people that are working within that Microsoft team. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to navigate to the right content that they need. And so the fact that you have the one native SharePoint environment but might work with these 3 others. I always use the example of a formal project management office, a PMO, might have a site that has a bunch of templates that need to be used for every project. You can go in and add, and you can actually, as part of the provisioning, automate the provisioning process, so any new Microsoft team that's created automatically has in the files a link to that cloud storage, quote unquote, to that SharePoint shared services PMO library of approved templates for project plans, for requirements documents, all that kind of stuff. And you can just make sure that so that it's always by default going back to that same parent site for that content and be able to access that. Again, maybe you don't want to add it to the files and people be confused there, and just add it as a tab. You have the option of adding either one of those. And so I've got all the tabs as the files. Here's the files. So you've got the add cloud storage. So there you go. You open it up, and right off the top, here's these other options that are there. Same way, you go in, you select what it is, the specific site, you can add the URL, the other service. I used in this example in another deck here, but both SharePoint sites, but and here it adds them, right there at the top. So you can see that the difference in these examples is those two manila folders. Those are folders that were created in the default SharePoint site created as part of the Microsoft team. But the one with the SharePoint logo overlapping the folder, that's where it's going to a net new SharePoint site or an existing SharePoint site. So it's a quick and easy way, and you'll get something similar if it's a Google Drive. You get that logo over that folder. So it's just a great way to very quickly, and sorry, we've not gotten to who's won yet, but a quick way to add to the navigation and make sure that all the right resources and content is there when people need it. Over to you, Tom.
Very nice. I'm going to play with that one to see exactly how that's going to work.
Yeah, that kind of goes with your quick access. Like, go figure out how that works in Teams. I think it's just a huge productivity saver for end users.
Yes. So this one, really quick to wrap things up here. Again, with Excel, I've had situations before where I've got like huge spreadsheet, spans like multiple pages. It's kind of a pain when you go to print it because you're thinking, really all I want is this little corner up here, but I'm going to have 14 pages of printout that I'm going to trash like 13 of them. What you can do is you can easily, in Excel, highlight the area that you want to print, and then use this option, which is page layout up in the tabs, do print area and set print area. And when you do the set print area in Excel, it actually only prints the area that you had highlighted, which is really awesome if, again, all you wanted was a short little corner of the spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet is actually pages long, or widthwise is really, really unwieldy. This allows you to simply get that little piece on a page or two and you're off and running again. And then to turn it off, all you simply do is go up to page layout, print area again, and do clear print area. And now you're back to, if you ever printed the whole thing, everything's out there. And it can grab it all. And I like the fact that Microsoft also has Excel save this setting. If you happen to set a layout, change here, and you want to set the print area and you save it, that print area is going to be saved with the file. And so when you go back into it next time, you're not going to have to readjust everything in the whole bit. So it would be great for setting up certain spreadsheets that may be reporting, and you say, yeah, I only want them to print this little corner of things right there because everything else is just calculations leading up to that. You can easily get this out here in the spreadsheet, save it, and then that's what people are going to get by default whenever they go in there and work with it.
One of the things I really like about this whole format, Tom, the back and forth, and I'll just, in the interest of time here, I'll grab this and share back over to as we wrap up. But okay. I think it's great that we could talk about tips that are things that are brand new, leveraging the latest features, or we can trot out really tired old things that have been around for a long time. So that was what you said. I can't hit below the belt, but that was my attempt, Tom.
It actually was a really good one, but the whole thing is I'm laughing at the fact that you hit me there because I have to agree that it was a legitimate shot, and yes, it was old and tired, and I rolled it out. But
it's one of those that people aren't aware. That kind of stuff, like, it needs to be surfaced and look at, and there are things that are iterated on and new about it. But that's a feature that's been around in the print area for a long time, but they have tweaked it and improved upon it to be able to save that and unlock it, not having to go and do it every time, which is a pain in the butt, and then find, I need to go and adjust that, and then set it up again, and just
Well, it's like Robin in our chat window there. She goes, she uses Excel a lot, and this is a useful tip.
Yep, exactly. Right, which is
one of those. I found it and thought, this is a throwaway tip. Nobody's really going to think much of it. But those are the ones that seem to get the most, oh my gosh, this changes everything for me.
Right.
never cease to be amazed at how some of them come across.
And that's why we do. I mean, Tom, both of us have done this, where we have surfaced things that aren't necessarily new, but that we are using and we've not talked about through this series that are that helped our own personal productivity, and that's the point.
Yeah. Plus, it helps me remember these tips, which is at my age a huge benefit. So that's why I like.
Once again, there's the current leaderboard.
Oh yeah.
We're going to do this again. March 14th is our next time together. We'll do it in April, and then in May we'll be live in Vegas.
Yeah.
And actually, we talked to you, Tom. We might do 2 different sessions. We might do something in the podcast area and do it with a live audience.
Oh, gasp.
So since we won't be really doing this format in our session itself.
Right.
But thanks everybody for participating. And Tom, thanks once again. Always enjoy these. And
my pleasure.
Grab your slides when you have them, and I'll post out to SlideShare as soon as I can. I'll probably have them out later today.
I will get that sent out to you momentarily once we hang up here.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody, for participating. And Jeff, you too. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Talk to you later. Bye.